You're listening to 1 Minute Podcast Tips. Quick, practical advice to help you podcast smarter, not harder. Hit follow so you don't miss an episode. And now, this week's tip. One of the quickest ways to sound less natural on your podcast is trying to sound like a podcaster. You've probably heard it before. Suddenly the voice gets a little bit deeper. Everything becomes more polished. And every sentence sounds like it was written for a presentation instead of a conversation. The funny thing is, that's often what makes a podcast feel less engaging, because podcasts are a really personal medium. Your audiences listen while they're driving, walking the dog, making dinner, or getting some exercise. And because of that, it feels much more like a conversation than a presentation, or at least it should. So instead of thinking about how you should sound, think about how you'd explain the same thing to a friend over a coffee. Because that's usually when you're at your most natural and your most interesting. Think about it. You probably wouldn't use bigger words than you need. You wouldn't worry if you paused for a second to collect your thoughts. And you certainly wouldn't try to sound like a radio announcer. For example, when I'm recording this podcast, I don't try to sound any different from how I'd answer a question from another podcaster. So if I stumble over a word but the point is still clear, I'll probably leave it in. If I naturally pause before making a point, that's okay too. Those little moments remind listeners there's a real person behind the microphone. So yes, work on your delivery, speak clearly, get more comfortable behind the microphone. But don't lose your personality along the way. Aim to sound like the best version of yourself, not someone else's idea of what a podcaster should sound like. Because people might discover your podcast because of the topic, but they'll come back because they enjoy spending time with you. Until the next time, happy podcasting. Thanks for listening to 1 Minute Podcast Tips, helping you podcast smarter, grow faster, and enjoy the process. I'll see you in the next episode.